forget, it's 1981. Get over it already. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And Matt, why does it always have to be about slavery? My name is Shahir Dowd. Welcome to the only podcast about movies.
That's right. Specifically, the Netflix-distributed film...
Barry.
I wanted to set you up like we were going to say it at the same time, and then you just did it.
We just got awkward there.
I know. It was fun.
It was weird. Yeah.
It's fine. I like it.
This awkwardness might be stranger in the room because we've got a guest with us right now. My man, Stephen Roberts, is here to join us. Director of Development for Docs and News at MTV.
Yes, sir.
But
How
you've
are
done a
you?
lot of things as well, right?
Yes, I'm a man of many trades, a jack of many trades. I've where to start?
ESPN?
ESPN oversaw social media for the World Cup in Brazil.
Yeah, you were telling me these crazy stories about you going to Brazil.
Yeah, I was in Brazil for
tweeting in Brazil.
Yeah,
that's your life.
Well, actually, I didn't even have to tweet. I had people in Bristol, Connecticut tweeting. I was just relaying information to the main show. So I kind of had a pretty sweet deal.
So you didn't even have to write 140 characters. You
Nope,
could send like 1,000 words.
Yeah, just had to send emails
Let me
saying,
pare it down.
Exactly, like you guys should be tweeting more about this.
Right.
That's all I had to do. It was a pretty sweet gig. Yeah. It was like working day and night, and then I barely slept because thank God for Brazilian coffee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got about 3 hours of sleep a night and was all over Rio de Janeiro.
Nice.
Beautiful city. Awesome city. Like, I definitely have to go back there. I'm pretty sure I'm going to retire there.
Really?
Nice.
I'm
That's
a-
always good to find that spot.
Yeah, like I found it very early on. I'm very thankful for that. So, like, yeah, once hopefully my wife comes with me, but I'm just going to leave.
Wait,
whatever.
the wife you haven't married yet?
Yeah, that I haven't married yet.
Yep. But she's Brazilian?
Let's hope so.
Okay.
Yeah, because hopefully we have dual residency. I
Let's
can't
just
come
say
to the
your
States.
Brazilian fiance.
Yes,
Yeah.
my Brazilian fiance.
Fiancé to be.
To be.
Yeah.
Potentially third wife. Yeah, we're gonna just live in a favela in Rio and just.
Oh, wow.
sit
In the
back-
favelas?
Yeah, in the favelas.
You want to go to the
Yeah,
favelas?
beach. Yeah.
Okay.
In the beach. I just want to live a
That's
simple,
unusual,
poor
right? Like
man's
people
life.
wanting to live in the favela.
Nah, just like I just want to be happy and watch the water hit the beach.
All
That's all I
right,
care.
all right.
Yeah.
And you also have another podcast that our listeners might be interested in called Friday Night Whiskey.
Yes, Friday Night Whiskey.
What is Friday Night Whiskey?
So Friday Night Whiskey is it's a weekly roundup of news, pop culture, and the dysfunctional lives of 20 and 30-somethings living here in New York City. So a group of friends and I, we kind of grab a bottle of whiskey each week. It'll be a different whiskey. It might be a scotch. It might just be bourbon. And we
Okay.
just kind of go over that. We finish that bottle. and we
Yes.
just talk
You
about-
finished the whole bottle.
Yes.
Actually-
Between three of you.
Yes, well, it was four. Four
Four
of us. So
That's still impressive.
Dom, my friends Dom, Ren, and Andrew, we just kind of sit around. We talk about the week's events. It
Yeah.
could be Kanye being a lunatic. It could be
Kanye meeting Trump.
Yeah, Kanye meeting
What,
Trump.
what is it? The Kanye Wish podcast? Is that what you guys did?
At times, everything circles back to Kanye.
Yeah.
But last few episodes, we've spoken about Atlanta, Insecure, just
Right.
things that are affecting our world and that we're really loving and enjoying about the world, things
Right.
that we kind of hate about the world, and just us kind of wrapping them up over some music and just good friends and good times.
Awesome.
I love the concept. Before this Joker, Shahir and I got together doing a podcast. I did something called Same Night Tonight or Same Night Movie Review, where we rated movies with shots of alcohol.
Nice, I love that.
One being the best, five being the worst, because the more alcohol you need, the worse it probably is.
Yeah.
We've since we've
evolved.
I'm getting jealous now because Steven's podcast sounds like it's
More fun than ours? No.
okay.
You guys are certainly welcome to come by.
Yeah.
I don't drink, but the only drink
yeah.
I do know a lot about is Scotch because I went to Scotland a couple of years ago and did like the whole whiskey tours.
Shahir says he doesn't drink. Shahir will drink.
I will drink. It's not like an ethical choice or I'm not a recovering
But when you say
alcoholic.
when you say that, I'm always like, motherfucker, are you? I've always when we go out, you do have a drink.
Hey, drink. It'll take me 4 or 5 hours
Which
to
is
sip
fine.
it.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's
though.
fine.
Yeah.
I always love it when you say you don't. I'm like, you fucking do.
But if you want to send me alcohol for some reason, you can reach us at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com.
Where he will send you his home address.
I'll send you my home address and you can send me a bottle of scotch so I can go onto Steven's podcast and you can share it with them. You can also hit us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod. Check out our Facebook page and also our website, onlymoviepodcast.com.
Yes.
But the reason, Stephen, I really wanted to have you on. So we're talking about the Barack Obama film, one of two that have come out this year.
Yeah, well, it's that. I mean, I'm gonna say Hollywood quotes, but thing where it's like, oh, this one movie
Armageddon
about
and,
something.
Deep Impact.
Let's have a few.
Ants and what was the
Bugs.
other? Bugs.
A
That's
Bug's
right.
Life, a
Yeah,
Bug's
a
Life.
Bug's
Yep.
Life. Exactly. So you got to have two Barack Obama. Did you? Now, I really wanted to check out Southside with you. Southside with you.
Yes, that's how it was.
Did you see that?
I didn't actually have a chance to see that. I really wanted to. I don't know what happened to it. It felt like I saw trailers and everything for it, and then it disappeared.
Well, it did a couple of weeks. It was kind of pitched as like Before Sunrise, except Barack Obama, which I was like, okay, that's cool. And then like the thing is the trailer for Southside with You came out around the time I think Trump was nominated as the Republican nominee.
Okay.
And the trailer was it was just such a beautifully uplifting trailer. I was like, oh, this trailer just makes me feel good. You know, I want to see this movie.
You watched a trailer?
I did watch that trailer. I actually posted it, I think, on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I'm if our listeners have had a chance to watch both Barry and Southside with You, we'd love to hear opinions about Southside with You. Like you, I wanted to get to see Southside with You as well, but we just didn't quite make it. You didn't make a chance to see it.
Yeah, and just looking at the trailer of that, I think one of the things that really jumped out to me, and humanizing might not be the word, it's more so relatable. It made Michelle and Barack seem relatable. They're probably the one presidency where you have two kind of equal partners.
Right.
And like you see them loving, holding each other, giving each other the fist bump. And I think, oh, that's really awesome just to watch that. And then that movie was hopefully showing the genesis of all that. Barack pursuing this woman who would eventually be his wife and mother of his children and the first lady of the United States of America. So that's what I thought was so great about it. So I feel bad that
I don't know about you guys, but for me, Barack and Michelle Obama are relationship goals.
Yeah,
like
exactly,
they are the pinnacle. Like every time Shivali and I watch something with Barack and Michelle, we kind of hold hands about it, and we're just like, that's where we want to be. That's. I mean, I don't see it, you know, like I can't think of a relationship in the public sphere that feels more authentic,
It's
more
definitely
progressive, and more where both people are making each other bitter.
Exactly.
You know, it feels like
that's the best part about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the type of woman I want to retire to with in Brazil.
Right.
Yeah.
You think you'll
Your
find
future Brazilian fiance.
But she was going to be a third wife, though.
Oh yeah. So eventually.
Wait, who are the first two?
I don't know yet.
Oh shit!
They ain't gonna be Michelle. I'm telling you that much. Yeah. Everyone's looking for the Michelle.
Sure.
I thought you meant legitimately Michelle Obama. Like, yeah, that won't.
Probably not.
No, I mean you're correct. You know what? If I was a betting man, which I am, I will take that bet.
But so yeah, it's an election year. We've had our one episode about Donald Trump.
Wait, there was an election this year?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you are thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's odd the timing of the release of this film, which came out after the election. I guess maybe
I don't think it's odd at all.
It came out right after the election.
I know. I don't think it's odd at all. I think, and tell me what you guys think. I think Obama is doing. I think he's done overall. I think there's slight things I didn't agree with fully, but I think overall he's done a great job. I think now is that weird time for a exiting president where it's all about legacy, right?
Right.
So I think
this is about legacy.
This is about legacy. This is about, and if they released that before, it would have been seen as one sort of DNC propaganda-y nonsense kind of, which I don't think it is at all. And then two, it wouldn't get nearly as much talk because there's more bigger things going on outside of Obama and who he is. So I think it was very calculated what time this came out.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah. I think you might be right there. But Netflix has been continuing this run of independently distributed features, films like Beast of No Nation,
right.
Fundamentals of Caring was one of their films as well. Plus their shows. I don't know about you guys, but my Netflix, you know, like when you open up Netflix and the first page comes up, it used to be like maybe one Netflix show in there, and now it's all Netflix show. And I think
it's been like that for a bit.
And I think the algorithm is like, I think they're starting to get a little sketchy with that algorithm where they're just pushing you Netflix shows now.
Oh,
but I don't mind. Do you mind it, Steve?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Well, if the quality is good,
and most times they are,
and we're going to get into what we thought about this movie in a second. I guess I don't mind. I think the thing though that I love about Netflix is that it has a really deep catalog of movies that are hard to find, and the
specifically kung fu films. I will say,
I didn't even
like
know that.
70s and 80s kung fu films.
Wow.
It's got some gems.
right. No, but so the thing that, you know, like when I go to my front page, I like the, you know, like going down a rabbit hole of things, and now I'm kind of just getting the Netflix shows.
Right, but you're describing you enjoy going down a rabbit hole. You just want the end of the rabbit hole thrown in your face right when you start. That's not going down a rabbit hole.
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
That's a valid point. I guess so. But maybe. But I
go for the adventure, Shahir.
Yeah. Well, so in this case, the movie was directed by Vikram Ghandi.
Yes.
Who directed another film which I had seen on Netflix.
I hadn't seen it, but I'd seen the poster.
Kumari. Have you guys
I
seen?
have not seen that. What's that about?
So Kumari so the reason I watched it is because it's about Hindu spirituality. I'm Indian, but I'm not Hindu. But the thing that I found funny about it was this idea that this guy Kumari, the director Vikram Ghandi, invents this like
Oh, I
Hindu
did
guru.
see that.
Oh, you did see it?
Really?
Yeah.
And if anyone's got an interest in religion, particularly in like Scientology and the way in which you like gather a following,
Building a religion.
building a religion,
Oh.
that's what he did. And then like eventually reveals to them, hey, I'm just making this shit up. And it's
Classic religion, yeah.
Typical
Classic.
religion.
Classic religion. And it's that interesting game of, like justifying, even though I know this is bullshit now, justifying, well, is there value in like faith and that
Nice.
kind of thing?
Still waiting for the big ones to do that.
Right.
You know, none of them had the balls yet.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
day.
One day.
Maybe
'cause
2017.
Yeah.
Pope's going to come out with it. He goes, you know
You're
what,
like, you
guys?
know what? Fooled you.
But this film is about the Columbia years,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Columbia College years of Barack Obama. Before we get into that, I guess, Matt, you kind of mentioned what you thought about Barack Obama as a president
Right.
as a whole. But I guess what I want to get into is like, what does Barack Obama as an idea, as a concept, as a person mean to you? Like, what does Barack mean to you?
I mean, if you asked me before the election, I would just say, oh, overall, good president. A
Right.
guy I seem to like his public persona. I mean, again, you never know people until you actually interact with them over a course of time. But like, as far as, and this is going to sound awful, but like, I feel like even through media filters, I am a decent judge of character
Okay.
if I research a person enough.
Right.
And I feel like overall, Barack Obama, not only is he, would I respect him, or that I do respect him as our president, but he's the kind of guy that in the right circumstance, I feel like I would get along with.
Yeah.
Right. You'd want to have a beer with him.
Yeah, I know that's the common line, but like, I don't know. I would just like to fucking, like, I'd love to talk to him about movies or just some bullshit, like,
Yeah.
just hang out.
You'd like to Netflix and chill with Barack Obama?
Just a Netflix.
Just a Netflix. yeah.
And we could watch this movie. It would be great. I've already written my fan fiction. But I don't know. So that was sort of before the election, and now it's so funny because he's not even out of office yet, and I'm getting this weird and I think again, this is why this movie came out at the perfect time. I'm getting this Obama nostalgia,
Right.
and now I think, look, the Trump's presidency is probably one of the best things that could have happened to this man's legacy, Barack Obama's legacy.
You think, in terms of like putting shit next to a diamond?
Oh yeah, because it's gonna be, he did a bunch of good stuff, and then we're gonna see how it goes down the line, and his stuff's gonna look like, remember? I remember. Like, it's gonna be that shit, and it's gonna be wonderful.
You know what's funny is I feel. I mean, look, we don't know what's going to happen with Trump, but Trump's presidency makes George W. Bush's presidency look amazing.
Oh man,
And that's scary.
oof.
Yeah.
God. I just thought about
So
that.
yeah. I mean, I dig him.
Steven, what about you?
Yeah, so I could think just for me, it meant kind of the shattering of two glass ceilings in a way.
Okay.
First, it was as a young black person, it was a shattering that you could actually be anything. You could honestly be anything.
Right.
Granted, he doesn't have the typical African American experience, but
Right.
there is no typical African American experience, which I
Right.
think is another beautiful thing. But it just showed you, like, if you're a little kid, you saw yourself as a president
Right.
of the United States. You didn't. If you were typically, when I was growing up as a little kid, you didn't necessarily see yourself in many things. You saw yourself as a rapper.
Yeah.
But then you had things like Will Smith, Michael Jordan, and just different things like that, where there was
Yeah.
multifaceted black people. It's like, oh, that's more similar to my upbringing.
Right.
But now you see yourself as the president of the United States, the leader of the free world,
Mhm.
which I thought was beautiful and it's something very aspirational.
Right. And black leaders before that were kind of people like polarizing figures like Jesse Jackson.
Yeah. I don't know if they're, I guess, polarizing to the outside world, to the non-black community.
Right.
I think it's they were very much civil rights leaders.
Yeah.
I think that's another interesting thing about Barack Obama's upbringing that we'll get into, I guess, a bit later, is the fact that he didn't have the typical African-American experience
Right.
of someone who was born in the United States or even from the Caribbean or Latin America.
Right.
Like, he didn't have that typical experience. He was born from a Kenyan father to a woman in Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Grew up in Kansas.
Yeah, grew up in Hawaii and then Jakarta.
Right, right.
Yeah.
His grandparents are from Kansas,
Yeah,
right?
grandparents are from Kansas, and I think he was very much separated from what the typical experience is.
Yeah.
And I think that played a lot into his role of thinking that he could ever be that.
Right.
And I think that's the kind of the beauty of it. The second glass ceiling that it kind of shattered, it made, and I think that's something you just touched on, just the idea that this guy could be my friend.
Right.
I think I grew up in New York City, so I'm a bit spoiled. So I had friends who were Indian, white, Korean, Chinese, everywhere in the world. I grew up in Queens, so God knows I grew up with everyone in the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think most people don't necessarily have a black friend, or they know one black kid in their high school,
Right.
or they know black people from TV.
Right.
And now you're seeing, hey, there's this really cool black guy with
Yeah.
a pretty cool family who I'm really related to. He likes sports just as much as I do.
Yeah.
He knows all about the same dorky things that I love.
Yeah.
And like, this guy's cool and normal. And it kind of normalized just what, like, yeah, black people are kind of normal like you.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And you know, it's the normalcy that you bring up that really struck me too, because I was thinking, like, I didn't want to just shit on all Republicans, like Clinton, right? Let's
Yeah.
look at Bill Clinton.
Right.
I think he did a lot of good things too, but I also don't think I would get along with Bill Clinton at all. And it's not, I don't know if that's not really a slight to Bill Clinton. It's just like, I
He
feel
wouldn't like you either.
yeah, no, but do you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like that's a sort of like, yeah, I respect what you're doing, but I don't want to fucking chill with you. And like with Obama, it's just like, you get both. And he just seems like a really smart, normal guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing for me is that I think the thing that I liked about Barack Obama and I like about Barack Obama is he feels like a really good mix of pragmatist and optimist.
Yes.
You know, like I feel like he understands what aspiration means, and he also understands what the reality of the situation is, which is why we got a fucked up system like Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, which is in some way a step towards an aspirational goal of something like universal health care, but another way it's a slow turn from what we had before to something more practical. And you know, like there are things about Obama's administration and his presidency that like you, I don't agree with. I mean, I think the thing that's kind of wigging me out right now is the situation in Yemen. You know, we talk a lot about Syria. We're not talking a lot about Yemen because that is a Saudi-backed coalition.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely lots of and the Edward Snowden issue, treatment issues with whistleblowers and the NSA. But on the heart of it, I'm a guy. So the thing about me personally is I identify.
Wait, you're from New Zealand.
I'm from New Zealand.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Well, actually, that's exactly what I wanted to get into.
I knew it.
Is that I'm Indian. That's just the first thing that people notice about me. But I was born in Fiji. I grew up in New Zealand. I live in America. And if you look at my Indian heritage, it's split even further than that. Like, so there are a couple more divisions about that. And so I spent a lot of my upbringing in New Zealand wandering around going, who the fuck am I? I don't really fit in any one place. And like, so for me as well, like I went to a high school where there was one other Indian kid and it was a predominantly white high school. So when a film like Malcolm X came out, changed my life, because I was like, suddenly this is a person who has found an identity and is going to fight for his identity. And I really, I don't have the African-American experience. I don't identify as an African-American or I don't understand what the African-American experience is. But what I did identify and understand was this notion of fighting for your identity. Yeah. And so Barack Obama is someone, as you mentioned before, Kenyan, Kenyan, Indonesian background, part Hawaiian, who when I read his story, I really found it compelling and meaningful to me. And I think, as my son, who's basically taken on the baggage of my fractured heritage, plus some more is going to go with, I think, like pointing to someone like Barack Obama is going to be an interesting touchstone for a conversation. So that's what I really appreciated and liked about him as a person. I also think, like one of the things is he normalized intellectualism. He seemed like a guy.
All the damage that Ross from Friends did, he fixed. Or I should say, all the damage that Friends did around Ross, right. He fixed.
Right, yeah. So I kind of like that about him. But so in terms of what I knew about Barack Obama, obviously I can't vote. I couldn't vote for him. I didn't live here at the time. But I read The Audacity of Hope. I didn't read Letters to My Father.
I haven't read it either.
Yeah, but and so this film is based largely upon Letters to My Father, plus some other historical information about him. Yep. And as we mentioned before, it kind of takes a look at those formative early years of Barack Obama's life when he arrived in New York City to attend Columbia University to study I believe he was studying political science, but it's kind of loose. They're not really saying what it was. He eventually went on to get his law degree at Harvard, I believe.
I mean, if you're looking at what this movie's about, IMDb says a look into the early life of U.S. President Barack Obama.
That's it. That's all you got. So what did you guys think of the movie?
I'll go first. You know what? It's really interesting. I came off this movie. I had just seen Moonlight.
Okay, first time?
Yeah, first time. I just seen Moonlight, which was a terrific movie.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I saw it literally the day before, then I watched this. And so there was a bit of a drop off in terms of the thematics and just the different types of character. And so, which isn't necessarily fair to this movie, but I came in it looking very highbrow.
Yeah.
And this very much, and not in a bad way, and this might come across as bad, it presented itself very much as a CW version of what Barack Obama would be.
Right.
What Barack Obama's life would have been like when he first came to college at Columbia in the fall.
Okay.
Which, and again, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a nice little snapshot that they took of that moment.
Yeah.
And they were able to tell the story. They were able to tell his him trying to figure out his racial identity. One thing that was really big was he kept saying, "This isn't my scene." Not to spoil too much, but he kept saying, "This isn't my scene. This isn't my scene." And it was really interesting to kind of watch him find himself over the course of this movie.
Right.
And so I thought that was like a really great part of it. But however, it was very much like a CW version of what this moment was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's going to team up with Arrow in the Flash.
Exactly.
in Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah. As
Okay.
you guys know in the future, that's what Obama does.
Well, there's a time travel in Legends of Tomorrow, so this all does actually. This could be canonical.
Yeah.
It didn't take long to point this to a superhero film.
No,
Like,
I would.
go ahead.
It took 20 minutes. 20 minutes. That's actually longer than normal. Shahir, what about you?
So I wouldn't call it necessarily the CW of Barack Obama's life. The thing that, for some reason, the touchstone I kept coming back to was Catcher in the Rye.
Oh, okay.
Like I kept on thinking about Holden Caulfield wandering around New York City, basically trying to figure out who he is, and that's what to me this film is. Now I've read reviews on this film, and people are kind of going, "What the fuck is up with this movie?" It's not rating very highly. People think it's kind of boring. Nothing happens. And to me, that's also true of Catcher in the Rye, which is why I think that the Catcher in the Rye reference kind of works for me. But the thing, I was completely compelled and enthralled by this movie from start to finish. I think this does a really. It sounds like it's reverential, and respectful to President Obama, which would be a weird thing to do. I don't think as a filmmaker you want to be, like so reverential that you kind of don't tell an interesting story. But I think what it does is it tries to figure out the man behind the myth, and the myth of the mythic figure of Barack Obama. And the interesting thing is it doesn't really get to individual traits about, like Barack Obama was this kind of dude and he was that kind of dude. It's more actually about, to me, it's about this search for his racial identity and the conflict of his racial identity. And, like I would subtitle this movie Code Switch the movie.
Ooh,
it's just like, it was all about code switching to me. And I think.
I'm sorry, code switching?
Yeah.
Code switching. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Are we shaking hands?
Yeah, we're shaking hands.
We're
How are
shaking
you?
hands right now.
Steven, what's up,
What's
bro?
up, man? How are you? Yes.
Oh.
Code switching.
Yeah. And I think
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that's a very black thing that you have to do. You're essentially always living in two worlds. And I think being biracial, it's probably double.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
The fact that I have to walk and constantly code switch in between two different worlds.
Oh, man.
In order to exist.
I mean, I understood that is a thing that happens with people, but I didn't know it had the title.
Well, I think the title is a recent way of kind of phrasing that. And I haven't had to code switch too much. I mean, I'm Mocha Brown, so I can kind of go between both worlds, but I don't really have to code switch that much. But I understand. It's funny because I kind of live in. It's weird saying both worlds. I do see it happen, and you kind of you understand what it is. And so
all I can do is sing part of your world. That's all. I can do.
We can do the Bollywood dance. You know what the trick to Bollywood dancing is?
Open hand, like claw, but like turning.
No, turn the light bulb and pat the dog.
That's what I meant.
Everyone listen. Turn the light bulb and pat the dog right now, and you're doing a Bollywood dance. So I found that, and again, because that relates to my experience growing up, feeling. I'm not. I wouldn't call myself biracial, but I'm definitely multinational. I come from a lot of different places. So this sense of like losing, trying to figure out what my identity actually is something that I find really compelling and interesting. I thought this kid, Devon Tyrell, who plays Obama in this.
Plays Barry.
Yeah.
I thought he was phenomenal.
He was great too. I think he was good.
I really, because I think it's really hard to do. It's really easy to fall into pantomime when you're dealing with like such a known public figure, with such a person who has such a well recognized voice and intonation and
Cadence,
and method of action. And this guy who's Australian comes out and not only gets the accent 100% correct, but also delivers the soul behind it. You know, and I think the last person I saw that for, and it was a presidential performance, was Frank Langella and Frost Nixon. You know, who, but in Frank Langella's case in that film, he wasn't really doing Nixon. He was just doing an impression of what Nixon might be like. It wasn't really like exactly Nixon.
You dug deep for that Skeletor roots.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. When you said Skeletor, that's what I think of.
Can I kind of piggyback off something you
go
said?
ahead.
And it's the idea of the code switching, and I think something that Devin Terrell did really well. I think he's also biracial as well.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is like my wife and I looked him up, and she was like, he is ungodly good looking.
Yeah, and so I think that's kind of something really interesting because I think he wasn't necessarily pantomiming Barack Obama. Yeah. He was going through what his experience was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I can only imagine what it would be like in Australia, just being biracial, black. I'm not quite sure what his exact background is.
Yeah.
But I can imagine like it's probably a very similar experience where you constantly have to code switch, excuse me. And it's something that's really interesting. I believe Jason Mitchell, PJ in the movie.
Right.
Like he also is a black person who goes to Columbia.
Yeah.
However,
and he has a real code switch.
Exactly, but he knows how to do it naturally because he grew up in America and he knows he's stepping. It's 5 blocks away?
Yeah.
But it's a completely different world.
Yeah.
And he knows it innately just being an African American
And that's
person.
the thing is Barack Obama doesn't know how to code switch in this movie. That's why it's code switch the movie to me. Is he does the person I've been thinking about and reading a lot about and Stephen and I talked about was Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yep.
I haven't read Between the World and Me, but I've been reading a lot of his stuff at The Atlantic, and he just published this really amazing piece about
My President Was Black.
Yeah, My President Was Black. And what I love about that piece was about the way it opens with the BET party. And you know, this notion that this is a guy, Barack Obama is a guy, from what we know, who's been dogged by that question.
Yeah.
Are you black enough? Or are you white? You know, like what are you? And if we look at, you know, the person who followed his presidency, Donald Trump, the one thing, and the thing, it is incomprehensibly, I get so mad about this. This thing pisses me off so much. I don't know why the conversation about Donald Trump didn't begin and end with the birther thing. Like, that is the most, to me, the most, I just, unbelievably childish, racially motivated. Like, if you want to talk about a person being racist, this is the pinpoint definition of it. By questioning this man's authenticity by pointing to, is he American? Is he actually who he says he is? And there's no way of tiptoeing around that. It makes me so angry. And I think what I loved about the movie was that if you watch it in that context, you're seeing the birth point of him having to deal with that question. The other film that it reminded me of was The Motorcycle Diaries, the Walter Salles film about Che Guevara. And you know, it's about the political formation of that person. So I really dug this movie. I really got a lot out of this. Matt, how about you?
I feel similar. I have a torrid relationship with biopics.
Okay.
And basically it always comes down to the question of, is this interesting and compelling because I know where this person ends up?
Right. Yeah.
Or is what I am watching interesting and compelling?
Right.
And then sub-question, does it matter?
Right.
Like, it's that fucking circle of thought that I kind of get trapped in. As far as this, you know, as a film and a story about a young man who is trying to find where he belongs, basically, I think it succeeds. I think, you know, everything was really pretty solid about it. I felt like the period work, like, it felt like the fucking 80s. Like, a lot of times, especially on, like, maybe a Netflix movie or maybe something that's not, like, a major motion, like, a lot of times, like, small details slip, but everything felt so 80s New York. It felt so right. Also, even down to the sound design, there were just moments where, like, and again, this is taking me out of it. It's, I was like, how did they get this to, oh, okay. Like, I'd just be like, this sound design is so fucking good. Like, it was really solid, and it really sort of emphasized the entire thing. I'm curious how, I need to do more research, obviously, but I'm curious how much is, like, true and what they sort of moved from other things. And again, biopics, you don't know, like, what is what and whatnot. I wonder if the Obama administration had a say in any of it.
As far as I've read, no.
No, it was just something outside of them?
Entirely outside of
I
them.
would imagine so.
What else about it? Oh, and then it seems like sort of I dubbed it, and it's funny because this is not an insult. This is I enjoy the thing I'm equating it to. It's like a walking simulator for Barry to witness, a bunch of humanity and how it builds into who he is. And a walking simulator is a video game like Gone Home or
Right. You're just
any of
wandering
those things where
around
you're
and
walking. It's not
absorbing
action.
information.
The Witness is another wonderful Firewatch or Firewatch. Yeah. Which you love, Shahir. So, I dug it. The only thing that I will say that I did not like about the movie, which is hilarious just due to the last couple podcasts we've done, is the dude who is in Boyhood who played his roommate.
Ella Coltrane.
I was just like, no, dude, I'm so sorry. It's done.
Yep.
I was just like every other actor in this movie. The woman who played Charlotte was great.
Anya Taylor-Joy, who is from The Witch.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I loved Salim, Avi Nash.
Salim was amazing.
He was so fun.
Yeah, he
It's
was so
weird
amazing.
because it's such an Indian, that's an Indian character I haven't seen. We are not like the stoner druggies in the back of the room.
He was so fun. And the three of them, him, Charlotte, and Barry together was just like the Thanksgiving. There's a Thanksgiving
It was
part.
like Three's Company.
I was
Come and
like,
knock on my
this is so
door.
fucking cool.
Can I say one thing about Salim?
Yeah.
Salim is very New York City.
Yeah.
Salim was very New York City. Salim was also code switching.
Okay.
I remember he was mimicking Barack Obama. I think you guys said it in the beginning. It's
Yeah.
like the trick is to sound just white enough.
Right.
He knew that he wasn't technically considered black.
Right.
And he knew he was doing a terrible job of being black, and he knew he was doing a terrible job of actually being what white was because he was black.
Right.
And so I think Salim was very New York, outside. Everything from him doing coke in the middle of his
Yeah.
living room on it was a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And it was just he was such a New York character.
Or
Right.
breaking into Barry's apartment to take a nap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take a nap.
Yeah.
And it's just something that's very free about. And
Yeah.
he wasn't necessarily confined to being Indian
Right.
or what was expected to be Indian. He could just be Salim.
Right. And it, the fact when he gets turmeric to make curry and things like that. It's I don't know, I found that really again, just refreshing, I haven't seen that character. He is based on a true person.
Okay.
I don't know much about who that person is. I believe he did end up working at Goldman Sachs or something like that, or
Okay.
JP Morgan,
Oh.
or whatever. I completely no empirical evidence backing any of the statements I've just made.
I like it. I live and breathe in that world.
So, but yeah, I mean, Matt, you raise an interesting point though, which is that, because a lot of the critique of this film that's been going on is it actually a compelling narrative? Like you say, it's compelling if you know and understand who Barack Obama is. But is it compelling if you don't know that? Now, I think the thing that they do very well is it's impossible not to know who Barack Obama is.
I think that's it. So if this was a biopic, say about a physicist that maybe you've heard their name once or twice, and then you did it, and it was this story, it might not hold up just because of the cultural reverence or relevance of who that random fictitious physicist is. But this is someone that the world knows.
Right.
So therefore, I don't even know if my initial biopic problem happens with this one, because you just can't separate that. That's very true.
Yeah. And I think they do a smart job of just saying this is a snapshot moment. It's a very small movie.
And
It's
that's
so true.
Yeah, and Steve and I were talking about that in the beginning before we even started recording, was I really appreciated that it's stuck in a snapshot, and it wasn't the New York years, the Chicago years, moving to Washington,
Yeah.
Michelle's here. Now, it's just just let's have a little snapshot.
maybe if you watch it in pair with Southside by Southside,
Right.
I'd
you
be
might.
curious to actually do that now.
Yeah.
But then we might get into, we might be Marvel-fying the Barack Obama universe.
Yeah,
and I know how
true.
you don't like that, Shahir.
That's true. I don't. I would love to see
the OCU, the Obama Cinematic Universe.
or
And how many biopics have there been about such a contemporary person?
Yeah,
I
and
mean-
such a well-known.
there. The one that I can think of is American Sniper.
Okay.
Which was
God.
But you didn't know we know every intimate detail
in fact,
about
he
Barack
died
Obama.
during
Yeah.
the making
Yeah.
of that film.
Yeah.
Was his name Chris something? A Clint Eastwood film. I can't remember. But yeah, I think
Fake baby. That's all I remember about that.
yeah, fake baby. I think there's increasingly. I think the thing that's happened is that the pace at which we can absorb information about a human being is so quick now that we can do a biopic of someone like Barack Obama. Whereas, for example, Richard Nixon movies didn't come out till 20 years after his presidency ended. And there is this interesting conversation about Barack Obama and the politics of fame. Barack Obama is inarguably a very famous person. He's a very charismatic person. And, one of the things that the Republicans often had a problem with Barack Obama is that he seemed to be a celebrity. You know, like he seemed to like court celebrityism in some part. I think one of the smartest things about Obama's ascendancy to the presidency was that he understood how to make people feel good, which is what I think good celebrities, if you consider celebrityism a profession, do.
Oh, it is.
So,
and haters gonna hate, man.
Yes.
Like that's literally, it's just like, oh shit, this guy's super charismatic. Well, fuck, now we gotta knock him down a peg.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
But so if you have any critique about Obama and his celebrity and the way it might affect our reading of this film, because like Catcher in the Rye, I don't think this film is giving us a full detailed analysis or a full detailed look at who this person. Like, I don't feel like I know more about Barack Obama by the end of this movie. I feel like I know more about the things that Barack Obama might think about.
Gotcha.
You know,
I'd almost like to counter that. I think we know a little too much about Barack Obama
in the real world.
In the real world, like
Okay.
like we just mentioned, I had just come off reading the Atlantic article by Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yeah.
My president was black, and I think Coates is like extremely like pessimistic.
Yeah,
And
that's
he's
his
actually
worldview.
Yeah, he's not actually really big on. He's big on President Obama, but I think as a black person, he's not too big on him. And there are plenty of black leaders who aren't necessarily that big on President Obama. They very much respected what he's done, but they may have felt like he hasn't done enough for the black community.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a valid argument, and like I think almost a valid criticism I have of him. One criticism I have of him. But however, I think I still love the guy. At the same time, this showed to me like his experience wasn't my experience.
Right.
And so it's something you kind of have to just accept. If you as a people don't want to be seen necessarily as monolithic, you have to accept like, hey, this guy's experience wasn't your experience. And I think by it taking this snapshot of this moment, it kind of was able to tell maybe a bit of his story and his understanding of him trying to figure out his own identity.
Yeah.
Because he can't necessarily fit into that scene.
Right.
He can't fit into these scenes. And so I think that's really, I think it was almost valuable in a way because I felt like I was overloaded with information.
Yeah.
And this gave me a kind of a snapshot to like thinking within this snapshot, thinking within this world.
It's interesting because we reviewed Boyhood a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that I have a problem with Boyhood is its sense of plurality. It's about boy, like even the title Boyhood. It's about all boys, like, and I was like, but this experience does not relate to me, and I don't even find it uniquely compelling in this scenario. And I think
it's because it's not.
Yeah, and I think the thing about Barry is that it is very specific. It's very unique. I wanted to bring up a quote from the Ta-Nehisi Coates article, Prisoners Black, and it was something I thought was really interesting, was like, over the next 12 years, and he's talking about from the first time that we saw Barack Obama at that first DNC speech, I think it was 2004, when he was giving like the keynote address.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was kind of signaled as the point at which Barack Obama became the Barack Obama that we know. But he said, over the next 12 years, so the 4 years between that and then his eventual election, over the next 12 years, I came to regard Obama as a skilled politician, a deeply moral human being, and one of the greatest presidents in American history. He was phenomenal, the most agile interpreter and navigator of the color line I've ever seen. He had an ability to emote a deep and sincere connection with the hearts of black people while never doubting the hearts of white people. And I think that speaks to, that thing, because you're right, Ta-Nehisi Coates is not, like historically not a fan.
Yeah. Not necessarily, I think he's critical of him, very critical of him, where most people probably aren't.
Yeah.
As critical.
Because Barack Obama is charismatic.
Yeah,
he is
exactly.
charming. I think Barack Obama is the father figure. Most of us have great dads, but he's the father figure we all kind of aspire to be.
Yes.
Man, he's Optimus Prime.
Yeah, exactly.
Except without killing people. There's no what Optimus Prime
I don't
does.
count Michael Bay's Optimus Prime. Hashtag not my prime.
I was thinking of him was it Atticus Finch? Atticus Finch's dad in To Kill a Mockingbird. The one played by Gregory Peck. I forget the character's name, but Atticus was the younger brother, but the father figure.
Yeah.
Like someone who is sincere, pragmatic, thoughtful, and kind of puts you at ease. Doesn't disarm you, but puts you at ease with his
Matrix of leadership.
Matrix of leadership.
I think I've nailed the analogy.
Right, yeah. With the he knows how to make Cybertron great.
Yeah. He doesn't need to make it great again because it already is.
Yeah. So we should get into spoilers.
Spoiler town.
Cool.
Although there's not a lot of spoilers.
So Barack Obama becomes president of the United States. Okay, this has been No, so it starts out in a spot. He's on a plane going to New York City in 1981.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just because again, small little stupid things. He was smoking on an airplane. I'm like, the freewheeling
Yeah,
80s.
exactly. Yeah.
Just living the fucking dream.
Yep.
That he lands. Basically, his first night in New York City in this film does not go well
at all. Right.
He's what was it? He was locked. Oh no, he went to go check out the campus that he was going to, and then the security guard made him leave because he didn't have his ID, and obviously that was racially motivated. And then he can't get into the apartment he's supposed to stay at, so he has to sleep outside. And he walks by. There's a scene that he harkened back to that I really appreciated. This where he's like walking by a chain link fence, and these two were they Rottweilers?
Yeah, Rottweilers.
They're like barking at him, and he's like, "Fuck!" Like he's doing the quick walk that most of us would do.
Yeah.
I love the scene that later car.
And especially someone new to New York, you're like, what the Jesus Christ?
Yeah.
He runs into eventually. Oh, I don't know if it's right now, but oh no, he crashes at Salim's.
Yeah.
And then the next morning he like goes back. He meets Boyhood. He meets his roommate.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the dude on the street. That was the other sort of thing. Is his neighbor where him and Boyhood are living.
Kind of, and I'm presuming, and I don't know if this is misreading that, but a drug dealer neighbor.
I don't know.
I
think that's very New York.
He was a
very New York,
he was
people
very
hanging
New
out in
York,
the
very
stoop.
potentially like you got a dangerous vibe from him.
Yeah.
And he always kept asking
For a cigarette.
And Obama was now. Did he quit in now times? Has he quit smoking?
He has quit smoking.
Okay.
I think since as he was running for president, he said. I remember him talking about it. He's been trying to quit.
Okay, because I do remember hearing that he was a smoker, and it was interesting to see him always smoking.
It's funny because that's like my parents, my mother and father-in-law watched this movie the night it came out, and they're like, I didn't know he smoked that much. That was
really?
like that was the main takeaway from the movie.
Yeah.
It was like, I didn't realize he smoked that much. And I think it's kind of like for this the figure that we are all kind of, like I say, aspire to some form of fatherhood for. It's like it is a little disarming when you see him like, smoking constantly.
All our dads had a past.
Yeah.
All our dads were fucking badasses at least one point in their lives.
Yeah.
They did their shit, and then they fucking straightened up or did whatever, and they quit smoking.
Became the president.
And they became president.
much,
All of our dads are president.
I remember at the start of Barack Obama's first term, I believe, there would be photos of him outside the White House, like taking a smoke break.
And fucking cool looking photos.
Well, it was like apparently like when he was like, because he had just quit, but like when he was really de-stressing, he would like still smoke a pack, smoke a
Listen,
cigarette.
leader of the free world wants to smoke a fucking cigarette. If it's gonna calm him down and help him out, fucking go for it.
Mellow him out a bit. But the smoking is quite a thing in this movie. You know, like it's quite noticeable.
So then we cut to Barry. It's called Barry. You realize that his name is nickname or whatever is Barry. That's what everyone calls him in the movie.
Which will mean something later on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then he's in philosophy class, which brings us to Shahir's line of why does it always have to be about slavery? He's getting into a debate, philosophical debate in class.
Yeah,
he brings up what were you gonna say?
Well, about the role of the individual voter. And like what because I think they're talking about Socrates or Plato or something like that, and it's like how does the individual vote matter? Why does the individual vote matter? And they get in. It's a kind of it's a tough conversation that they're having to wrap your head around because they're talking about like the role of government in an individual's life, whether it provides security or whether it provides the ability to fight or it's a difficult conversation.
So this is the first scene that this is a problem I had with the film. I forgot about this when I was talking about my initial thoughts. Is that so like I said, it is sort of like a walking simulator to see how the building blocks of turning the history of Barack Obama and turning him into the man that he is today. It does, and not necessarily this scene, but this is the thing that it does throughout in scenes like this, where it does hit for the cheap seats in certain places to be like, this is where he got his idea about hope, or this is where he got his idea about this, and it feels very like, see what we're doing, and like if they just dialed the subtlety up or took away sort of the non-subtle, however you want to, whatever dial you want to pull, just to make it not like get it. This one didn't feel that much, but later on as we go, they start adding up, and I'm like, come on, guys. Like, I get it. I understand that this is why he's like this, and whatever.
And I can understand that would be the criticism of this film, is that it's too didactic about, like touch points in Barack Obama's life.
Matt, it's funny you say that because I thought you might like it because it reminds me of like a Batman Year One.
Oh, 100%. No. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, That is good.
But,
I like that.
but don't get me wrong. But I think, for instance, what Batman Year One does very successfully.
You came prepared.
Yeah.
You came prepared.
What I think, and again, it's a different medium. I haven't seen the animated Batman Year One.
no, I haven't.
You're talking about the comic. I think what the comics is interesting because a lot of that can be because the pacing of how you read and digest a comic book. With the panel direction and all that shit. Timing is almost a personal thing, and even mistakes that I think Batman Year One makes can get glossed over in the actual experience of reading the comic. Whereas when a movie is so locked into, it's telling you how you're going to experience those points.
But don't you think, like, I mean, Batman Year One eventually is the cornerstone of what Batman Begins was. And it is, and you know, like I know they change a lot of things, but basically the narrative idea, which is like, here are the things that happen to Batman that will eventually make him Batman.
Sure.
And it's the origin story idea.
No, I know, but it's the way, and every one of those is going to have points and winks and nods, but it's the way those points and winks and nods are either massaged into a story so you barely notice them, or you like them when you're like, oh yeah, that's a thing. It's the amount of them.
Right.
But sometimes it's just like, it's almost like you're in Barry, you're going along for a ride, and then it's just a little like, whoop, and there's a reference.
Yeah.
Whoop, and there's another one.
What I liked is that this is basically the only classroom scene where he's being instructed on political
Sure, and
theory.
it's not just politics. In fact, this is I just wanted to bring it up in general. I have more as we go, but like this one didn't bother me the most. But this was the first one where I was like, oh, we're gonna get a couple of these.
Gotcha.
Right.
And I didn't mind it. I thought this was a very interesting scene and an interesting discussion they were having in philosophy class. I also wrote down, how come I didn't have a fucking I never took philosophy in goddamn college. I was like, I would have loved the shit out of this.
Philosophy is awesome.
You can take, right now you can actually take, I think it's Harvard's entire philosophy course is free available online. You can actually just...
Yeah, but you can't debate. Well, I could just speak to my computer.
Yeah, you could
I just like philosophical debates. I don't know.
That could be our other podcast. We could do...
oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. That's a speaking of rabbit holes. So then, so this is one of my favorite parts coming up. So he eventually, he runs into, Salim breaks into his house and they're going to go to a party or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm going to a party on campus or whatnot. And then he goes to the basketball court.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where he meets PJ, but you don't know his name then. He just seems like a guy that doesn't quite get along with him, and he keeps calling him invisible.
Yeah.
Because he's
reading The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't know where that story was going to go, and I liked where it went.
Yeah.
And I just... That their interaction throughout this entire film, and in that moment where like they're both not quite sure about the other one, and because they both come from very different lives, to see the interaction like on the basketball court and then eventually off the basketball court and everything felt so natural and nice, and like he started calling him invisible almost as a little bit of a dig, and like you're not important enough for me to call you your actual name.
Or ask it. Yeah.
And then, like every good nickname, it becomes a term of endearment as the film moves on. And that's kind of shit I love. Like, that's a character story moment that feels so good as the movie keeps going.
So true.
And I really dug that. I don't know. That was just a minor thing.
Yeah. Oh, no, I love that because I also love that experience. Also, one thing about it is Barack Obama's constantly the outsider.
Yes.
Right? Even his neighbor, in the beginning, he's taking his cigarettes. I think it's something very common with New York.
Yep.
I know it's kind of hyper-focusing on now, but people have constantly always moved into New York and always tried to move into neighborhoods and claim it as their own. And people from those neighborhoods have constantly push back.
Yeah.
And I thought this was like a great shot of that. And him, everyone on a basketball court making fun of him was like, who are you? Who are you to think that you can just come here and play basketball with us?
Yep.
The thing about that I always thought was interesting, and I guess it's because the film is about that struggle of identity, is that every black person knows he's not one of them.
Yeah.
It's not like, because I remember initially, I think it might have been a 60 Minutes interview before the 2008 election or maybe just after it. He was riding in a car and the interviewer, Dan Rather or someone like that, was saying, what do you say to people who don't think you're black, don't think you're black enough because you're of mixed heritage? And he said something along the lines of, yeah, I get that. I understand that people might find me somewhat disarming. I don't sound like what you might think a black person might sound like. But at the same time, he goes, but my experience if I'm in a white neighborhood, my experience is very much the same as what a black person experiences in those neighborhoods. Like people see me that way. But I think the counterpoint to that I thought was really interesting is that when he goes into black neighborhoods, people know he's not from that neighborhood. He's not from around there.
I'd also say it's the same with white people, especially in the film or even damn the government. But they're very much quick to point out that he's not like what their stereotypical view of black people look like,
Right.
particularly white people. Even in the film, like there seems to be some his roommates, his college classmates.
Yeah.
He's like we talked about in the Senate. They constantly challenge him.
Right.
Like he might have been right on the point, but they're very quick to say, no, you're right, not right. They're constantly quickly to challenge him. Him even walking onto the campus, he's challenged about that.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's not for the security guard. It wasn't typical for a black person to be walking through.
Yeah.
So I think he's just constantly in that outsider role, whether black people viewing him or white people viewing him.
Yeah.
Which I think makes him who he is in a weird way.
Yeah, I think like that's I guess the reason why I found the film so compelling is I feel that experience all the time. I live, I'm a person who lives in New York now, and I have this weird accent, and I'm a 6'4" Indian dude, which is a little unusual, I think, like to see. And so I've always kind of responded to that feeling of like being the outside. But the weird thing for me is I've always really loved being on the outside. I love like not being part of a tribe. Like I think to me, I think it shaped my worldview a little bit. Like to be able to look at things analytically, and I like kind of just seeing that in him made me really respect it. Now, does it have the problem? Does it have dramatic stakes? Does this like this idea of not knowing which tribe you belong to or being sort of an outsider and straddling the line.
In this film in particular or in general?
In this film in particular. Would you argue that actually has dramatic stakes? Because
near the end, as much of this, as much drama as this movie gets into, yes.
Yeah.
If you're looking, because that has to be graded on a scale too, because if you're talking about that between Moonlight and this, no. Yeah, like this is so baseline if you compare it to that.
Dramatic stakes are completely entirely
But
different.
if I'm looking at it in the package of Barry, yes, there are dramatic stakes. I mean, because he eventually goes to the party, he meets Charlotte.
Yeah.
He starts dating her. She's white.
Yeah.
So then there's that whole thing that goes on throughout the entire film, and the interactions you see, like at Thanksgiving with Barry's mom, who is also white. That's and with Salim, and like the four of them together is just such a cool little family unit. You're like, yes, like I love this. This is what it should be. Yeah. And then you have even when he walks down the street going shopping with her to visit like the guy he buys books from or any of that shit, like they're all looking at him like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. He gets self-conscious about that in the restaurant. That's sort of where the only like.
That really reminds me of, do you guys see Jungle Fever, Spike Lee's film, Jungle Fever?
I have not, no.
It just reminded me of that. It's something that I guess in when we think about interracial relationships, we tend to, like in hip hop, it's always like, I got to get me a white girl or something like that. Like you date a white chick. I think that's Kanye line from Gold Digger. And the one thing that, like Jungle Fever switched me onto the others sometimes was that for a black man dating a white woman, there's actually some sense of shame in that. Like there's some sense of selling out, and it's something that I had never really thought about. And it's something that this film kind of really taps into. And it's something that he, Barack is dealing with, or I'm going to call him Barry because it's important that he makes the distinction between Barry and Barack.
Yeah.
But like he's walking through this, through his quote unquote neighborhood now. And people are looking at him like, hey man, what's up? That's, you're kind of selling out now. Which I just, it's a nice little touch. It's something we don't really see or think about in films.
It's very true.
I mean, this is the year that Loving came out, which is a film I haven't seen yet, but
really good.
Yeah.
Overall.
Nice. So I really enjoyed that side of, that question I asked you earlier about like, does the film have dramatic stakes? I do actually think for what this film is, those dramatic stakes are really compelling and really interesting. And I actually really liked that this is a small, intimate film about small ideas.
They're able to make the smallness feel big enough to carry the film itself, which is I think is important.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel unimportant.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then there's a sort of side thing which we haven't really discussed about his father.
Yes.
Right.
Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I'll touch on that. I think that's something that kind of stuck out to me a lot in the movie as well. throughout the movie, he's constantly writing a letter to his father.
Right.
And,
like
The
about
same
Smith.
letter.
The same letter.
Yeah.
He's constantly trying to write the same letter. You only see him every point they flash him. He's at the very beginning of the letter. He's never able to
Well,
actually.
at the beginning.
And on the
he's-
plane, he's reading a letter from his father.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's reading. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Let me backtrack. So on the plane in the beginning of the movie, he's reading a letter from his father. He and his father, he hadn't had a relationship with his father. He hadn't seen him since he was 10.
Yeah.
They haven't really had a relationship. It's not 2016 where you could talk to your dad via Facebook Messenger or you could Gmail him, anything like that. You kind of have to make a collect call to Kenya.
Yeah.
And his dad actually has a family, and it's alluded to, and you see it later on in the movie. His dad kind of just had a tryst with his mother, Barack Obama's mother.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of anger that Barack Obama almost has towards his mother about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because for the fact that and I think it kind of plays off into his view of Charlotte, where his mother was just kind of doing this thing,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
cool thing. And so him not knowing his father, he just doesn't really know how to process it. And it's also something Charlotte brings up as well, where she's like, you overthink everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And throughout the movie, he's overthinking how to write
Yeah.
and how to reach out to his dad.
Now that's the one thing, because again, I would never begin to say I understand the things that he went through because I can't.
Right.
But the one small aspect is I am very similar in that sense of overthinking everything to the point of I mean, it's been a problem from time to time, either doing projects or anything like that, because I get so wrapped up in the what if, who's thinking this, okay, I need to keep this person happy to do this and whatever, I get so much in my head. When I saw him sort of doing that throughout the film, granted about very different things than I would, I related to that a lot. I was like, oh shit, like that's not a fun feeling.
Yeah, it's not at all.
No.
But it's one thing that I actually I think the film actually really captured really well, which is the college years.
Yes.
And college years are about bullshit conversations and overthinking everything, because everything about college, if you have the experience of going to college, is like finding your tribe. It's like finding your identity. And, I think that this film actually did a really good job of conveying like those bullshit conversations that you have, like when you're in first year college, especially.
Yeah.
And having those kind of those political conversations where you're talking about Socrates and Plato are like life or death when you're in first year college. When as
Actuality, it's like
when you grow up, it's like fuck.
One of the big moments with the Charlotte relationship was when finally she brings him to dinner to meet her parents.
This scene, it was
So he's in the bathroom washing his hands or whatever, Barry is, and a guy comes in and starts washing his hands, and Barry hands him like a towel, like just hands him like a polite
asks him for a
gesture.
towel,
He asks him for a towel. He goes, the guy says thank you and leaves a $5, like he's the fucking attendant.
Yeah.
And I literally. When it happened, I wrote it down. I was like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And
Oh, really?
I like verbally said it, and I was like, God damn it. And then I was like, oh fuck, that's gonna be the dad.
Yeah.
I was like, that's gonna be the fucking dad.
Yeah.
And I saw it, I was like, God.
It's so weird because there's two scenes like that. I think there's that scene and there's a scene later on where
I yelled, it's her goddamn father, like to myself in my apartment.
There's that scene and there's a scene later on where the Charlotte's mother introduces her to someone where I was like, these to me are and there's another scene on campus where Barry gets carded. And to me, those were the scenes where I felt like it's not that I don't feel that those things aren't true. I don't know about the father thing if that actually happened, but I felt like I knew exactly I knew the tip was coming before it happened, and I knew that dude was going to be the father.
Yeah, it's funny. I knew it was coming as well, and I think
Those
things happen.
Those
things truly happen.
Those truly happen, but I feel like I've seen it happen before in film as well. Like I knew that.
But you know what
bugged
me the most? What I hadn't seen in a film with a situation like this, because you're right, I've seen similar things.
Yeah.
But when he goes back to when he goes to the table and he meets the parents for the first time, the father never looked him in the eye in the fucking bathroom, so he doesn't even fucking know it's the guy he gave $5 to.
That was another beautiful thing I noticed about it. He never paid attention to him. He wasn't important.
And I was
he was invisible.
I was like, mother, and it goes back to the thing, and I was like, motherfucker, this movie's doing some slick shit.
Yeah.
And that was like, that's a trope that it could have fallen into, and it could have had like that awkward dinner conversation, like, but it didn't do that.
And then again, this comes back to that sort of beautiful performance from Devon Tyrell.
He's like real good.
He's really good in this scene because he completely disarms the parents. Everyone, and you're like, I know why he's so charming. Like, he is really charming.
Yeah.
You know?
He has a way, especially in this movie, because it's like how Barack Obama is now, but like with this weird youthful edge that just sort of like, that he's too smart for everyone, and he will say a thing that is that at its core is knocking the person he's speaking to down a peg, who's disrespected him, who's just sort of a dick, but like is so intelligent and sort of charismatic in the way he says it that the person's like, oh yeah, like cool, and it's just like you're seeing him outsmart people.
Yeah,
Just
it's
like,
amazing. It's beautiful.
So good.
No, I love that whole thing about him. But just going back to that interaction, I thought it was just great how the dad didn't even know it happened.
Yeah.
And then later on in the movie,
And he never brings it up.
He never brings it up.
Yeah.
He never brings it up. And then the one time he actually does bring it up is at Charlotte's sister's wedding.
Right.
When Charlotte's mother walks him over to the interracial couple, I believe it's an Asian and a black man. They're in a couple together, and they sit down, and they said, "Oh yeah, Barack, I think you really should meet these guys, this couple." And so Barack sits with them, and the first thing the black gentleman asks him, and I forget his name, he goes, "Oh, were your parents in the movement?" He goes, "No, you guys are an interracial couple, and my parents are interracial. That's why I'm assuming she brought you over. She thought this was a good thing."
Yeah,
and he's already had the worst day of his life. Sorry for the spoiler, but his dad had died that day.
No, we can jump around.
So his dad had died that day, and he hadn't actually revealed this to Charlotte. He hadn't really he doesn't even really reveal it until he sees the African guys at the bar who are serving everyone.
After they take wedding pictures, because they're all at a wedding.
Exactly. And then he kind of is just like, there's some type of comfort in that. And there's also some type of comfort when he's talking to the interracial couple, where he's just like, yeah, they don't really get me. She just knows that you guys are interracial, and she wants me to talk to you. And I just love those little moments about him, because he's able to let himself go in front of people he feels comfortable with.
And I can't remember where I read Barack Obama talking about that time with that girl, with Charlotte. But it might have been in that Atlantic article.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, but he was kind of like saying, I knew that if I stuck around here, I would basically entirely assimilate into that way of life. And I think that's what's happening in, well, I'm not sure if that's exactly what it is in that scene, but it's that thing where he's like, there's this person who I've never met who is basically one half of who I am, and I don't know who that is anymore. And I know that if I stay in this relationship and in this place, that part of me is going to entirely slip away. And so there's two really beautiful things that happen here. The first is that when he breaks up with Charlotte, I love that the movie has the smarts not to like give us the conversation. I was like, oh, that's good. You
know, she gets it. She gets it coming, and like it's just, and it's he gets it. It's at a wedding, so it's weird.
And the cool thing is that the filmmakers understand that we get it. We don't need to actually hash it out.
For the hand holding that I was talking about for the Obama, this is an Obama thing moments. What for all of those, what it does with relationship, like, I don't know, just smoothness in this. It all feels very real and it never holds your hand for relate. It's like you're an adult, you understand how this can work.
I really like that.
And that's rare. Especially, it's so funny because like that's for a film to do that with relationships. Whew, that doesn't happen every day.
It leads into the final scene where Barack goes outside into the country club, finds a
lights a cigarette,
like hangs out
sits on a sand dune,
sits on a sand dune and writes and finishes the letter. But the thing that I thought was beautiful was that he signs it off as Barack.
Yes,
that's the first time in the entire film that he's been called.
And the reason, and like I don't know, that really touched me because the thing that like my experience when I moved to. From Fiji to New Zealand, the first thing that happened is that no one could pronounce my name.
Aren't we still pronouncing it wrong?
That's the thing.
I heard your voicemail the other day, and it's
entirely different. And the thing is, I don't like if there's any part of me that code switches. It's how I say my name in front of Indian people versus how I say my name in front of non-Indian people.
How are we supposed to say it? Tell us.
So and I say this wrong. The only person who says this right is my mother, but it's Shahir.
Shahir.
Yeah, it's not.
I've asked him if he wants me to fix it, but nope.
I don't care. Like it doesn't bother me, but like realizing that he's basically assumed the identity of Barry the whole way. And then making that choice to become Barack at the end of it. I just thought it was just really smart writing. And because so what happened when I came to New Zealand is no one could pronounce instead of saying I've always said it Shahir. People didn't understand that, so they just said Shahir. And that's kind of what people, it's basically become. And I was like, oh, yeah, there is a point at which that happened, and it wasn't my choice that made that. And I, for what we see at the end of this film is him assuming the identity of his father, because his father's name is Barack. And I just thought it was a lovely piece of writing, and it was like a lovely culmination of what this film is. It's very small. It's a really small movie.
Well, the whole movie is,
but Sorry.
I tell a kind of really funny story.
Yeah.
Back to my.
It's got to be really funny. Though.
It is.
If
funny.
it's not really funny,
really funny.
Okay, can I tell a story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's
go
a
ahead.
story that kind of relates to this. So I worked at ESPN, and that was in Bristol, Connecticut,
Okay.
which is very whitewashed.
I've been to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
I
Connecticut.
haven't been, but I could guess.
Yeah.
And it's Connecticut. And so every day I used to have to sit through 2 or 3 sports center meetings,
Yeah.
which are also very whitewashed. Few people of color, few women in the room.
Yeah.
And during the time I worked there, Jadeveon Clowney was projected to be the #1 draft in the NFL. I'm sorry
Okay.
if no one listening knows sports.
Yeah.
But
I'm
this
sorry.
guy, but this guy was a beast in college football. He, you guys have all seen this clip because it's been viewed probably close to 100 million times, where he just destroys a running back when he's in college.
Yeah.
And this guy's, and we'll show it afterwards, but he's just projected to be a beast.
Right.
But during his senior year, not his junior year, he's dogging it because he knows he's going to the NFL.
Okay.
He doesn't necessarily care to be in college, but he doesn't want to get injured because college players don't make money. He's waiting for that big NFL check.
Right.
And so there's one, we're in the sports center meeting, and one day at a press conference, he goes, "Hey, my name is actually pronounced Jadeveon."
Right.
They have been calling him Jadeveon Clowney, Jadeveon. He's like, "No, it's actually pronounced Jadeveon." And so, being that sports center meetings and ESPN was very whitewashed, a lot of the producers were like, "How arrogant is this dude? Why does
Oh,
he now,
really?
why does he now want us to pronounce his name this way? This guy's been dogging it all year. He only cares about the money. He doesn't care about the school and all this stuff." And I remember just sitting in the meeting, and I just raised my hand, and they're like, "I wonder why he would say that." And I raised my hand. I goes, "His mother told him to say that."
Yeah.
And they
That's
go-
how you pronounce
and,
the name.
And they go, "What do you mean?" His mother knows he's about to be on TV every NFL Sunday,
Yeah.
and that's not what she named her son.
Yeah.
And and she probably told him point blank, "This is how you pronounce your name. Make sure they pronounce your name this way." And then they all kind of sat there in silence, and they all go, "Oh, that actually makes sense."
It's fun.
And it's,
Yeah.
and it's just one of those things where like, I named you this,
Yeah.
and so have the confidence when you go step in front of these people, make sure they say your name the way I named it to you.
That's,
Which is actually
it's
really
that's a
interesting.
beautiful. I'm sorry we dogged you at the
Yeah,
beginning of
yeah.
the story. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
good.
thank you. It wasn't as funny, but it was like poignant, and I thought it related to that point. where
Yeah,
it's just-
it also like it reminded me in Malcolm X when the conversation about assuming the X for the name, you know, like it's rejecting the slave name, and also like that Malcolm took, you know, I think I'm not sure if it was later in his life or in the middle of his life, but he took on like a full Muslim name,
Yeah.
Al Hajj Malik Al Shabazz,
Mhm.
you know, and it's like, and you know, people, and the thing is if you're not invested in your identity, people think, you know, do what the
Yeah.
people did in that
and
room,
you
which
can
is
become invisible
yeah, people just
because
reject
people
you.
aren't seeing you for who you are.
Yeah.
And I think like his dad, Barack Obama Sr.,
Yeah,
and a lot of him being bad was rejecting his father.
yeah.
And now he wanted to be like, you know what? This is my name. I need to take ownership of it. And you're going to figure out how to say my name, and I'm going to correct you.
Barack Hussein
Obama,
Obama.
yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
that. And that is the miraculous thing about Barack's ascendancy. If we are getting into like celebrity politics and basically the Twitter sphere, and you know, like we're only digesting small bits of information. The fact that his name is Barack Hussein Obama should have just immediately disqualified this guy from
Yeah.
running for presidency. But no, he didn't just, you know, he didn't just get past that. He won.
Yeah.
And he won 2 terms.
Yep.
And he will arguably, at least in our generation, be known as the most popular and effective president in our lifetime.
Well, for our yes, but for our sake, I hope not.
I
like
of course-
I
of course.
hope.
I hope someone better
I
comes.
hope it always gets better.
Yeah.
I mean,
But you know,
It
like
has
he
to.
is the. I mean, I know Kennedy was cut short, but he is the Kennedy of our generation.
yeah.
You know, like
Definitely.
where
as
he,
of now, 100%.
he is the aspirational figure.
Yeah.
Now, aspiration alone, I think, doesn't make for good bedfellows in terms of the government. But
What are you talking about, buddy?
we can just hope and change. We'll just hope and change our way into universal health care. Obviously, that's what's
Yeah.
important to me right now.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
but you know,
Don't you have you still have your New Zealand healthcare, don't you?
no, we had to get rid of.
Oh no!
I'm swimming in the sea of American
Oh,
healthcare.
welcome
now.
to Thunderdome. I'm so sorry.
yeah.
I tell you what, it is. I don't know how you people are living. It is a clusterfuck.
It is. Mess.
Day by day.
Yeah, you day living in a bidet.
Yeah.
That's basic. Yeah, you can take it that way. That's 100%.
You're washing your ass with American healthcare.
Yeah. Well, final thoughts. Let's go down. Let's have Steven end it. Shahir,
Yeah.
what do you think?
I mean, I think you guys know. It is what I think of the movie. It's very small. It's intimate, but it spoke to me on a very personal level. I don't know if that necessarily translates because I've read reviews where people just go, "What the hell is going on here? There's nothing happening in this movie." And to be honest with you, that's how I feel a little bit about Catcher in the Rye when I read Catcher in the Rye. But to me personally, like I was invested in this in the dramatic states of finding your identity, and again, the fact that it is a person whom I presume most people know about. And know what he eventually becomes. I think it is a worthwhile film. It reminds me of a lot of the conversation about race in America is a very fluid, ever-changing, difficult conversation to have. And I think that Barack Obama's presidency has injected something into that conversation, which I think has always been useful because I consider myself multinational. And I think the we often think about race in binaries, like you're black, you're white, you're this. And I think, someone like Barack Obama, I hope will introduce the idea of fluidity into the concept of race.
Sure.
Aside from that, I think it's a really beautifully shot film, exceptionally well-made film, and it's a very smart piece of storytelling.
Yeah.
It knows what it is. It does it very well. From this guy, Vikram Ghandi, who's made one documentary and a series of documentaries on Vice. Now this. So I think this is it's not showy either. It's not, It doesn't feel like, hey, I'm making my first movie. I got to show people what I can do. Yeah. It's just, he really cast it well and played it very, very smartly.
Yeah, no, I agree with all those points. I think other than some of the heavy-handed, this is an Obama-ism and this is how Obama got this certain way, it wallows in a great way in the small moments and it lets you sort of soak in them and I could, on one hand, I could see a critic's problem with oh, nothing happens. But on the other hand, I'm shut the fuck up, people that are only used to giant fucking stupid movies. I love giant fucking stupid movies.
Yeah.
I love giant fucking stupid movies. But you know why I like them? Because it's not the only type of movie I watch. I would get so fucking bored if I just watched explosions all day. This has the weight of a large whatever the fuck bullshit film, but wrapped up in a tiny package. And I think that when people... I also wonder too with this because it's so politically tied.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Are you really going to get someone objective? Even us in this room.
Yeah,
but as far as quality and whether we like it or not, there's a lot of I do feel and maybe this is arrogant. I think the three of us can separate that. And if this was a bad film, we would be ugh. But there are people that can't. And so whenever you have a polarizing sort of political type film, I think that could happen too. The one thing I do want to add, because other than that, I agree with everything you said. I would love to see this style of movie.
Batman Barack?
No. Yeah, that'd be great. But what about the same period of time, the same slice of life of Trump?
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, the Trump.
Could you
what
do it?
Would it be?
No, whatever. Just take however old Barry was and do it then. Because I would love to see them side by side. And I'm not talking about a slam piece on Trump.
I think the Art of the Deal.
No.
Because
the Art of the Deal is a slam piece on Trump. But he should be slammed.
But it's about a very specific deal that he's trying to make.
Right. No, but I'm talking about I want to know what made
Donald Trump.
The Art of the Deal is just, he's already Trump. He's already there.
Right.
But I want to know there's not a lot about his mother. There's not a lot about you hear about his father and how he was rich, but I don't know. Could you do it? And could you make? I was talking about this with someone else. I was, and I don't want to make the Trump Hitler comparison because I don't always think that's the same. But I could very easily see someone doing a movie like this about Hitler in the artist years.
Oh, I mean,
has that been done?
It hasn't been. I've read stories about Hitler in the artist
I could
years.
see you doing that like this and making it just as compelling and da-da-da. For whatever reason, I can't see it having the same emotional gravitas, and maybe that's because of who I think Trump is, because everyone's human. I get that.
This film has already been made about Trump. It was called American Psycho. It was made in 1999.
Yeah, but I'm just curious. That's the only thing I wanted to say was I just don't think you could do it. And if a filmmaker did it, holy fuck. So I don't know. I just you should watch Barry. It's on Netflix. You should do it.
Yep. It's funny. When I started this, I said it reminded me very much of a CW movie.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it dismissively, but now the more that
but a really good CW movie?
Yeah, a really good CW.
CW's got some good shit.
Yeah, it's got some good stuff. But we talk about this not actually anything happening here. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of the beauty of this. And the more we spoke about it, I actually like it a lot more now.
Right.
I think nothing really happened on the surface, but the subtext within the movie We
Yes.
talked about code switching. We talked about racial identity. We talked about not to say puberty, but young adulthood.
Yeah.
And I think there
Finding your place, yeah.
Yeah, finding your place and finding your place in the world. I think that was just like really well done here. And I just kind of actually talking it through, it was like, oh wow, actually a lot happened in this movie.
Yeah.
And a lot shaped and laid the foundation for like it was Barack Obama year one.
Yeah.
And I think now we kind of get like what we actually have been seeing as a president, how he's able to move in between different worlds and things like that. And so looking back on it, it's an awesome CW show, maybe the best CW show ever.
Nice.
But like, no, I'm actually really happy, and I kind of want to go back and watch it again and just write a lot of this down.
Excellent.
Oddly enough,
I hope our audience feels the same way.
Yes.
And if you do, you can reach us at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod, or go to our website at onlymoviepodcast.com. To write us in, we've gotten a few really good emails recently about our Star Wars review, which we'll talk about. And we're really enjoying the interactivity we're having with our audience now, so please keep that coming. And if you can, write us in a review on iTunes. It really helps us spread the word about what our show is, and also gives us new ideas about things we could be doing in the future.
Indeed.
That's it. That's all I got.
No, well, this has been the only podcast about the film Barry. Stephen, when you are not watching biopics on great American presidents, where can folks find you?
they can find me on Twitter at /Stephen Wobbits. Instead of you replace you replace the R with the W.
Right.
Ah.
And, it was born out of the podcast Friday Night Whiskey because after a while I start to
Saying
slur.
Wobbits.
Instead of Roberts, I say Wobbits. So it's Stephen with the V and WOBERTS.
Nice.
You can find me there on Instagram and Twitter. And then also you can find Friday Night Whiskey on iTunes at Friday Night Whiskey and the SoundCloud /Friday Night Whiskey. So please
Great show. Tune in.
check
everyone.
it out, guys.
And we are going to take you up on that invitation.
come
we will
by.
come. We
Yeah.
will come.
Just
drink.
you
at
guys
least
just
just to
come drink.
dilute that bottle a
Yeah,
little bit, because I
yeah.
think you guys are going to get alcohol.
Shahir will have the one glass. You can't see the air quotes because he doesn't drink.
Yeah.
You guys have never seen me drunk, and you never will.
Yeah. Give it time. Shahir, where can folks find you, buddy?
You can find me at www.shahirdaud.com. That's SHAHIRDAUD.com. All my lives and works are available there.
And you can find me at Emperor MSK on Twitter, Skeletor, the number 4 PREZ on Instagram, or at MatthewKroll.com. Guys, this has been an awesome conversation. Stephen, thank you again for
Thanks
coming.
for having me.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.